Yavat satyam jagad bhati shuktikarajatang yata yavanajñayate brahma sarvadishtanamadvayam tavat as a correlative of yavat, as long as, satyam, true, jagat, the world, bhati, appears, shuktikarajatang, silver in the mother of pearl, yata, like, yavat, as a relative of tavat, as long as, na, not, jñayate, is realized, Brahma, Brahman, sarvadishtanam, the substratum of all, advayam, one without a second. The world appears to be real only as long as the nondual Brahman, which is the basis of all, is not known. It is like the illusion of silver in an oyster shell.
Namaste. So the world appears to be real. Why is that? Because we don't know the actual reality. That which is actually real is permanent, eternal, no beginning, no end, and no limitations in the present. And that is only Atman, Brahman, consciousness. Consciousness of consciousness, Turiya. Now, if you look at the world, if you examine it actually closely, when you go to sleep at night, the whole thing disappears. Or when you go into meditation and withdraw the mind from the senses, pratyahara, the same thing happens. The world disappears. The world, the objects, the senses, the body, even the mind in deep meditation, in samadhi. So why do we invest our idea of self, our feeling of I am, in these temporary, really fragile, ever-changing things? Well, because we have no idea that we are Brahman. We have no idea of Atman. Why? Because of our habit of consulting the senses to measure everything. Is this good? Is this bad? Is this conducing to my growth and happiness or not? Or is it just neutral? These are the three basic determinations of the mind, which is designed to help us survive in this competitive material world, full of suffering, difficulty, obstacles, and so on. But if we base our sense of self on something temporary, when those things change, our sense of self changes too. And this is painful because we naturally want everything to be stable, especially our idea of I am. But nobody ever suggests to us to look within at the source of I am. Then if we do that, we discover, oh, actually I'm different from all these objects, even the body and the mind and the intelligence and the ego. I am different from all of these because I am observing all of them. I'm perceiving them, and if I can perceive them, they're different from myself. So the body, the mind, the intelligence, the ego, the senses, their objects, all of this is non-self. Try to understand. And the scriptures give the clue. Aham brahmasmi, tattvamasi. I am Brahman, and you are that too. Without this clue, without the direction of the scriptures, we would never guess even by philosophical abstraction and logical speculation. We would never come to the conclusion that I am something different from how I measure my existence in conditioned consciousness. So, if we value our existence by temporary, changeable objects, then our sense of identity is like that too. Temporary, changeable, fragile, always changing in response to different environments, different stimulus, what other people think of us, and so on. This is not a satisfactory arrangement. It's unsatisfactory, and that is dukkha, suffering. One of the meanings of dukkha, besides, actual suffering, like having a broken leg, it's mental suffering, unsatisfactoriness, dissatisfaction, frustration. And haven't we all felt these things? But if we identify with the temporary objects of the material world, we're going to be plunged into dukkha all the time. It's never going to be satisfactory because it's all impermanent. So, the secret then is to rest our sense of identity on the self, that through which everything is seen. And when we do that, we realize that actually not only I am Brahman, but everything else is also Brahman, just a transformation of Brahman by superimposition of the material modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So the clue that the Vedas give by means of their instructions to perform sadhana, puja, yajna, and so on, is to concentrate on sattva guna. By concentration of the mind on sattva guna, the mind becomes purified. And as we were recently discussing in the group chat, this concentration of the mind purifies it, because the impurity of the mind is precisely due to its jumping from one object to another and trying to identify it as self. But since all the objects are temporary and unsatisfactory, this just leads to an unbroken chain of suffering. This is samsara. Even the subtle body jumps from one gross body to another. This is transmigration, rebirth. And so this samsara has been going on since beginningless time, immemorial. Nobody can remember its beginning. The world, therefore, is beginningless, inexplicable. Maya, it can neither be said to exist nor not to exist. And the example given is the snake and the rope. One comes out in the twilight and sees actually a rope, but thinks that it's a snake. And the panic and fear and trembling, the suffering due to this perception is certainly real. Just like one having a bad dream, a nightmare, waking up in fear, sweating, trembling. The fear is real. The nightmare is not. The trembling is real. The snake is not. So, is the snake real or unreal? It's mithya. Mithya means neither existing nor non-existing. Like a mirage. A mirage exists as an illusion, not as what we misperceive it to be. For example, in the desert, the temperature inversion over the hot sand makes it appear that there is water. So the water doesn't exist, but the illusion exists. The illusion, it's a real illusion. Similarly with the world. Because we try to rest our sense of self in the senses and the perception of the sense objects and the mind that categorizes them into name and form, it appears that the world is real. That just like the water in the desert, if we examine it closely, the appearance of the world is only the images superimposed by the senses on the consciousness, the underlying turiya. So what are we? Not any of that, but the substrate itself. We are that turiya, we are that Brahman, that Atman. That sense of self comes from our identity with Brahman. But Brahman is covered by upadhis, the gross body, the subtle body, the causal body, and ultimately the ego, ahankara. Ahankara means that false identity, identifying itself with the mind, senses, body, sense objects, etc. So, what do we have to do to get out of this is purify the mind, first of all. And that is done by concentrating the mind through devotion to some deity or mantra or puja or a form of meditation. It almost doesn't matter. We can pick any deity that we like, but try to concentrate the mind through yoga, puja, yajna, and dhyana. And slowly, slowly, the mind becomes purified. That is the first stage. And that can look like anything. So we're not sectarian. We don't say only this God or only this kind of meditation or only this mantra. No, we say any of them are good. But at some point, you have to pick one and stick with it and go deep until all the thoughts in the mind are reduced to one thought only. Ekagata, meaning one-pointed mind. At that point, the mind is purified, and it can reflect the light of the self. That's the light that we see in meditation. When that light becomes strong, when it becomes steady, then one is qualified to hear the Brahma Jnana, Brahma Vidya, this tmabodhah. And that is the real beginning of actual spiritual life, the journey toward liberation.
Om Tat Sat, Om Shakti Om.